Hello, my name is Andy, and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro, and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. Welcome back to West Lindsey in Lincolnshire. Now, the last 3 episodes you've seen in this district have all been really small places, not really much to talk about. Here, not too far away from those 3 places, is one with a bit more meat on its bones, and it's one that I have connections to because I have relatives that live in this very village. Welcome to the beautiful Scothern. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Scothorne is a small village and civil parish in the West Lindsey district of Lincolnshire, situated 6 miles northeast of the county town of Lincoln. This has approximately 900 inhabitants these days. The exact census figure was 892 according to the 2001 census, but it had reduced by 2011 to 860. Nonetheless, the population is likely to be on the rise again due to some new developments, which we'll talk about shortly. That follows a trend set by its neighbouring villages, Sudbrooke, Dunholme, Nettleham and Welton, who have all been redeveloped over recent years with the addition of new housing estates. Developments in the village have always been something of a concern here. There have been some noises made in the past about Scothorne becoming a conservation area. The village has a good sense of community, with over a third of respondents to a survey in the spring of 2015 stating that the aspects of life they most liked in Scothorne were the size and makeup of the village. The peacefulness and the village feel and community spirit were also high on their priority lists. I can't say I disagree with any of that, knowing the place as I do. It's somewhat of a compact village surrounded by countryside and fields used for a variety of agricultural purposes. The land surrounding Scothorne is graded 2 and 3A, which represents the best and most versatile land for the purposes of agriculture. Scothorne's history next. The place name Scothern is first attested to in the Domesday Book of 1086, where it appears as Scotstorne and Scothorne. The name means the thorn-bush of the Scot or Scots, suggesting it has some links to the Scottish. Scothern frequently appears in many records as Scothorne. You may also see it written as Scottern, spelled S-C-O-T-T-E-R-N. The village has a long history. Records from 1842 show the village was a thriving, self-contained community with a variety of trades. It may have grown, but the village core retains something of a medieval street pattern, and properties date largely from the 18th and 19th century. The village was subject to a major flood in 1993, and absorption into the soil remains limited as the subsoil structure is clay over limestone. Scothorne's current school is not the first it's had. That's where the name Ellison comes in. Richard Ellison built a public elementary school here in 1837. It could hold 130 children. The modern-day school takes the Ellison name. So right at the top of this video, you remember I said I had relatives in this village, and I do indeed. Behind me, here at number 2 Heath Lee, you'll find my auntie, my mother's sister. Oh, that was nice. I've just had a half an hour with Auntie Pat, and it's been a while since I've seen her. The last time I saw her was at my Uncle Fred's funeral, and that was back in 2013. And it's been so good to catch up with a member of my family again. I imagine it's the same for a lot of people out there who haven't seen family members for such a long time. Here are some of those new houses we mentioned earlier. You'll find these on the road out towards Dunholme. There are 2 other new areas, one on Heath Road and one off Langworth Road. Other than these, Scothern has remained substantially unchanged in a number of years. In fact, the only major development other than the odd infill house has been the Church Grange development off Sudbrooke Road in the early 1990s. You'll come across the parish notice board on the side of a bus shelter close to the church. You'll find my card there now too. Demographics next. The population in Scothern is ageing, and according to the 2011 census, 24.5% of the population were over the age of 65 and 16.6% of the population were retired. The population density is 94.38, which is pretty high, but Scothern doesn't cover a massive area of land, so that's to be somewhat expected. 98.3% of the residents here are white British. The average price for a property in Scothern in 2014 was £255,000, which was considerably more expensive than the nearby villages of Sudbrooke and Dunholme. These days, the average price is much higher at £373,000. As already mentioned, Scothern has a primary school. This is Ellison Boulter's Academy. As well as Scothern's children, pupils travel from the neighbouring villages of Sudbrooke and Langworth. One massive advantage you always have if you're filming on a Saturday is that you can stand right outside the school and no one can question you. I have had that before outside schools, I must admit, but I can understand it with the camera. It does seem a little bit weird, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. Scothern is served by 2 buses an hour to Lincoln via Nettleham or Welton from Monday to Saturday. Throughout most of the day, there's an hourly service to Welton via Dunholme and an hourly service to Nettleham. The parish church you will find on Church Street, and this one is dedicated to St Germain. This is a Grade 2 listed building. The church was rebuilt in 1796 and again in 1861. Additions have been made in more recent years. The church can seat 265 people. The village's war memorial is within the churchyard. I was just about to walk away from the church and its bells started to chime, so I made sure to capture those. They're pretty loud. The first Wesleyan Methodist chapel was built in the village in 1823. The current chapel, seen here, replaced it in 1858. Scothern has a small garden centre. This is Scothorne Nurseries, and this is the only kind of retail facility the village currently has, other than the Bottle and Glass Public House and Mark Harris Commercials. There used to be both a shop and post office, but these both closed in March 1999. Scothorne Nurseries is chiefly a plant centre, with a cafe and a small selection of choice other goods. It's a family-run business with staff that have over 50 years of experience. Here is the Bottle and Glass. This was featured in the Telegraph in March 2008, when Prince William visited the pub for a cider and a pie with his friends from the Red Arrows. The centre of any community in this part of West Lindsey is undoubtedly the village hall, and Scothern is no exception. A charity-funded establishment, this offers a wide range of organised activities and space to hire. Right next to the village hall is a small playground. I should also mention Grange Park at this point too, an area of approximately 2 acres of former agricultural land, which is also an open recreational space. Here we are at the playing field, which is where the village cricket club is based. The club was formed in 1965 and has teams competing at all youth levels. There's a couple of hard surface tennis courts as well, and there are a number of other active sports and social groups, including football clubs, a dramatic society, choral society and a scout and guide movement in Scothern. The local St Luke's nursing home holds up to 30 patients. The village has no medical practice, with the majority of residents accessing these services in neighbouring Nettleham. Areas of Scothern are at risk of flooding, and Scothorne Beck, which runs right through it, plays an important role in regulating runoff and spring water from the surrounding fields. The Beck's purpose is just one reason to love it. I think it's pretty. With this running through the village, it's perhaps little wonder Scothern won a Best Kept Village competition in 2013. Just about visible through these trees off Main Street is the Manor House, a Grade 2 listed structure, first listed in 1985. Sustrans Route 1 makes another appearance here. The Viking Way route does as well. Remember, that's the long distance path which runs from the Humber to Rutland. Scothorne's old telephone box is not a book exchange, nor does it house the defib machine. Scothorne's Parish Council have transformed this into a fabulous information point about the village. Note the village's shield, which features some of the landmarks you can find here. These include Ellison Boulter School, the church, the Bottle and Glass, and Grange Park. So here in the old phone box we've got two maps. We've got one here and another one just to the right, which I'll show you in a moment. Let's concentrate on this one first, because this one will show you the route I've walked. So I parked in Meadow Close, which is here, and I've walked down Crapple Lane onto Orchard. There's a footpath just here. I've come across there, and then I've gone up Church Street to catch St Germain's Church, round to Heathley to see Auntie Pat, and then up to the garden centre, which is on Dunholme Road here, and then up Main Street, and this phone box is there. And to finish the route off, all I'm going to be doing is walking straight back along Main Street to Meadow Close, catching the village hall and the playing field, which are here. That's basically the route I'm walking around Scot. When filming, I was talking about the landmarks on this map, but I realised there was really no point, as this video kind of does that anyway. I thought then this was the ideal opportunity to point out the maze of footpaths across the local area, which are all marked on this map. There's no excuse to not get out and exercise if you're in this part of the Lincolnshire countryside. And this landmark almost passed me by. It's a memorial to one of Scothorne's cricket captains, Nigel Willows, on the scoring box near the tennis courts. Okay, I'm pretty much all the way around Scothorne now. I'm just going to take a perch here on a bench outside Meadow Close. This was put here for the Diamond Jubilee in 2012, as you can see from the words on the back of it. Time for a picture bit for the parish of Scothern, and here that comes right now. I realised that I would need to drive south out of the village towards Sudbrooke to finish this episode off, and as such I thought it would be a good idea to use the car to show you the Church Grange development on the way. This includes the Alders, the Oaks and Juniper Drive, which I alluded to earlier. Grange Park sits between this development and Church Street. Blink and you'll miss it, but after we've had a quick look at this estate, Mark Harris Commercials is on the right of your screens shortly as we turn back onto Sudbrooke Road. Okay, to finish with, I've come to the south of the village, heading towards Sudbrooke, and behind me you'll be able to see not just one, not just two, but at least 3 nodding donkeys. We've seen these before in places like Beckingham in Bassetlaw. Here in Scothern there's a rather large area dedicated to them, and they're working. These nodding donkeys can be found off Sudbrooke Road. They're part of the Welton oil field. Indeed, this very site is known as Welton A. I could only see 3 working, but Welton A has lots more active wells not in shot. The Welton field is the second biggest onshore oil producer in the UK after Wych Farm in Dorset. Data from August 2021 showed that Welton produced 3.07% of UK onshore production. In 2021, council officials refused a request by operator iGas to abandon one of the wells here, so there are still 15 within the compound. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that for the parish of Scothern. And it's time for me to move on to my next one in West Lindsey. Now, my next one in this district is a rather large town. In fact, it's the largest town in the district, and it's one I cannot wait to get my teeth into. It's the place I went to school. Gainsborough, I'm coming for you. This has been the parish of Scothern, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.